There's a kind of presence that doesn't need words. You've seen it before. A man walks into a crowded room. He doesn't speak, he doesn't rush, he doesn't demand anything. Yet, within seconds, you feel it, the shift in energy. Heads turn, conversations pause. People notice, without even knowing why. It isn't his clothes, it isn't his height, it isn't even about status. It's something deeper, something invisible. This is the silent force, the power of stillness. Most men think power is about volume, about being the loudest voice, about showing dominance with words, gestures, or constant movement. But the truth? Real authority is often quiet. Real strength doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to. When a man carries stillness, he radiates certainty, and certainty is magnetic. Think of the ancient generals who stood at the front lines, not screaming, not panicking, but calm, composed, unshaken. Soldiers drew courage not from their orders, but from their presence. Their stillness said, "I am unbreakable. Stand with me, and you will be unbreakable too." Or imagine Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor. He led the mightiest empire on earth, yet his journals were filled with reminders of humility, patience, and calm. He understood that control of the self is greater than control of the crowd. That when a man remains centered, the world bends toward him. And here's the paradox: the less you try to impress, the more people feel your impact. The quieter your movements, the louder your presence. The more still you remain, the more others lean toward you. Why? Because in a world of noise, stillness feels like strength. In a culture obsessed with showing off, silence feels mysterious. And mystery pulls people in. Ask yourself, when you enter a room, do you rush to be seen? Or do you let the room feel you? It's not about arrogance. It's not about pretending to be above others. It's about alignment, knowing who you are so deeply that you don't need validation. And when a man no longer seeks approval, he becomes the kind of man everyone wants to notice. This is the silent force that stops the room. The force rooted in ancient Stoic wisdom. The force that makes masculinity irresistible, not through performance, but through presence. And the truth is, you already have it. It's there, buried beneath distraction, insecurity, and the need to prove yourself. It awakens the moment you decide to be still, because stillness is not emptiness. Stillness is power under control. And as we move forward, you'll see why this force isn't just about how others see you. It's about how you master yourself. It's about how you master yourself. It's about the inner discipline that creates outer influence. So the next time you enter a room, remember this: you don't need to speak first. You don't need to be seen first. You only need to be. That's when the silent force begins to work. Why is it that some men speak endlessly, yet no one remembers what they said? And others who say almost nothing leave an impact that lingers for days. The answer lies in stillness. You see, words are cheap. Anyone can talk, anyone can fill the air with noise. But stillness, true, unshaken composure, is rare, and rarity creates value. When a man is calm, when his presence is steady, it sends a message deeper than language ever could. It tells the world, I am in control. Not just control of the situation, but control of myself. And that's what women notice first. Not the loudest voice, not the most charming line, but the man whose energy whispers, I don't need to prove myself to you. I already know who I am. Psychologists call this nonverbal dominance. It's the ability to communicate power without saying a word. When you remain composed, your tone steady, your body relaxed, your eyes calm, you trigger an instinctive response in others. They feel safe around you, yet curious about you. They lean in, wanting to know more. Because think about it. What does nervousness look like? Fidgeting, talking too fast, Over-explaining, filling silence just to avoid discomfort. Now, what does confidence look like? Stillness, measured words, the patience to let silence hang in the air without flinching. That silence is powerful. It creates tension, and tension draws attention. This is why women are drawn to calm, composed men. Because in a world where most men crumble under pressure, the one who remains still signals strength. Strength of mind, strength of emotion, strength of self. And here's the deeper truth. Stillness isn't passive. It isn't about doing nothing. It's about holding everything inside you without letting it break your center. It's about showing that your emotions serve you, not the other way around. A man who blurts out every thought seems reckless. A man who rushes to defend himself seems insecure. But a man who can sit in silence, steady and unshaken, radiates quiet confidence. That confidence is magnetic. Because women, and people in general, are wired to seek safety in strength. And strength isn't just physical. It's emotional control. It's self-mastery. It's the ability to stay grounded when the world is trying to shake you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This is why stillness is more powerful than words. Because words can lie, but stillness reveals truth. Think about a heated argument. One man shouts, gestures wildly, loses his frame. The other listens calmly. He speaks slowly, with precision. Who seems stronger? Who seems wiser? The second man. Always. Because he's not controlled by the storm. He is the calm in the storm. Oh yeah. And that's the essence of masculine stillness. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's about mastering them. It's not about saying less for the sake of mystery. It's about only speaking when your words carry weight. This is why silence often speaks louder than 1,000 words. And once you understand this, you begin to see how stillness isn't just attractive. It's transformative. It shapes how others see you, how they respond to you, and ultimately, how they follow you. Because in a world filled with noise, the man who embodies stillness becomes the one worth listening to. But here's the real question. If stillness is this powerful, what does it take to build it? What practices, what mindset, what discipline allows a man to carry this unshakable calm everywhere he goes? That's where we're headed next. Long before psychology gave it a name, long before self-help books filled the shelves, there were men who understood the power of stillness. They were the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca Epictetus, three men separated by rank and circumstance, but united by one principle. True strength is quiet strength. Marcus Aurelius ruled the mightiest empire the world had ever seen. Armies marched at his command. Senators bowed to his decisions. Yet, in his private journals, never meant to be published, he reminded himself daily, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Think about that. The man with power over millions understood that the only power worth having is power over yourself. Woo. Then there was Seneca, the philosopher and advisor to Emperor Nero. He lived in a court filled with chaos, betrayal, and political bloodshed. And yet, Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." In other words, most of our struggles come not from the world itself, but from the storms we create in our own minds. His lesson, master your mind, and the chaos around you loses its grip. And Epictetus, born a slave, crippled, owning nothing but his thoughts. He taught his students, "No man is free who is not master of himself." For him, freedom wasn't about chains or kingdoms. It was about self-command. Even in poverty, even in pain, he carried dignity, calmness, and strength. These men didn't just preach philosophy. They lived it. They showed that restraint is greater than rage, that composure is greater than control, That stillness is not weakness. It is the highest form of power. Now, pause for a moment and ask yourself, what has really changed since their time? The world is louder, faster, more chaotic than ever before. But the wisdom of stillness? It's timeless. You may not command legions, but you face battles every day. The email that demands an instant reply, the insult that tempts you to fire back, the pressure to prove yourself in every conversation. And yet, the Stoic lesson still applies. You don't have to react. You don't have to rush. You don't have to let the world pull you out of alignment. Imagine walking into a heated meeting where everyone is talking over each other, raising voices, fighting for dominance. And then, you remain calm. You speak less, but when you do, every word carries weight. Suddenly, the storm bends around you instead of sweeping you away. That's Stoicism in modern life. That's the art of quiet strength, because the truth is, history doesn't just remember the men who shouted the loudest. It remembers the men who stood unshaken when others crumbled. It remembers the generals who stayed calm in chaos, the leaders who didn't let anger rule them, the philosophers who proved that mastery of the self is greater than mastery of the crowd. And that lesson has never been more urgent than today, because if you can carry the stillness of Marcus, the clarity of Seneca, the resilience of Epictetus, then you carry a wisdom more powerful than wealth, more lasting than status, and more attractive than charm. Quiet strength never goes out of style. It is as valuable now as it was 2,000 years ago, but wisdom alone isn't enough. Knowing the path doesn't mean you can walk it. So the question becomes, how do you train this stillness inside yourself, day by day? That's where we go next. There's a truth about attraction that most men never learn. It isn't always about looks. It isn't always about wealth. And it certainly isn't about being the loudest man in the room. And what women respond to, on a level far deeper than words, is presence. And presence begins with stillness. And presence begins with stillness. Think about it. A man who rushes to explain himself, who constantly seeks validation, who talks endlessly just to be heard, he doesn't feel safe. He doesn't feel certain. And if he doesn't feel certain, how can she feel certain with him? Women don't consciously say this out loud, but unconsciously they know. The man who can remain calm under pressure, the man who doesn't need to prove himself, the man who doesn't flinch when silence enters the room. That man is rare, and man is rare, and rarity is irresistible. This is where psychology meets attraction. Evolution has wired women to look for security in a partner, not just physical protection, but emotional stability. A grounded man signals survival. He signals that he won't break when life gets hard, that he won't crumble when storms hit. And that is exactly why stillness creates desire. Picture two men. One gets nervous when silence falls. He fills the gap with endless chatter, oversharing, bragging, making jokes that don't land. He thinks he's winning her attention, but in truth, every extra word makes him smaller. The other man sits with silence. He's relaxed, his eyes steady, his breathing calm. When he finally speaks, he chooses his words carefully, like a man who knows his value doesn't depend on her reaction. Which man feels stronger? Which man draws her curiosity? Always the second. This is the psychology of silent attraction. Mystery, groundedness, self-control. Yusha, groundedness, self-control. Because when you're not desperate to be understood, when you don't rush to fill every gap with words, you create space. And space makes people lean toward you. Space makes her wonder, who is this man? What makes him so calm? What's behind that silence? And curiosity is the beginning of attraction. Let's go deeper. Stillness doesn't just create attraction, it creates respect. Women, whether consciously or not, test men. They push boundaries, they challenge, they provoke, not out of malice, but out of instinct. They want to see, is he grounded? Can he hold his frame? Can he lead even when things get messy? A man who overreacts fails the test. A man who argues emotionally fails the test. But a man who listens, pauses, and responds with calm precision, he passes every time. Because stillness says, I am not controlled by your storm. I am the anchor in the storm. And anchors are what women crave. The mystery of a man who doesn't reveal everything at once. The confidence of a man who doesn't chase approval. The security of a man who holds his ground no matter what. This is why stillness is more powerful than words. Because words can be faked. Charm can be performed. But presence cannot be acted. It's either in you or it's not. And here's the beauty. You can build it every time you resist the urge to over-explain. Every time you choose patience over reaction. Every time you sit with silence instead of trying to escape it. You strengthen your stillness. You sharpen your presence. And the result, women feel it. They don't just hear it, they feel it. That subtle magnetism, that unspoken authority, that aura that says, I don't need you to choose me, but if you do, you'll never regret it. Because attraction isn't just about what you show. It's about what you hold back. It's about the power of restraint. And once you understand this, you stop chasing. You stop over-explaining. You stop proving. Instead, you stand still and let the world and the women in it come to you. But here's the real secret. Stillness isn't only about relationships. Its power stretches far beyond romance. It shapes how men lead, how they influence, and how they rise in every part of life. And that's what we'll uncover next. Imagine two men walk into the same room. The first enters like a storm. He speaks loudly, gestures wildly, laughs at his own jokes. Every sentence is a performance, every movement a plea for attention. People glance at him, but not out of admiration. His energy demands to be noticed, but once the noise fades, no one really remembers him. Then a second man enters. No rush, no theatrics, no attempt to dominate the space. He walks with calm certainty, says little, and observes more. Strangely, the room begins to turn toward him. People sense something different. They can't explain it, but they feel it. His silence feels heavier than the first man's words. This is the contrast between noise and presence. The loud man believes attention equals power. But attention is fragile. It fades the moment someone louder, funnier, or flashier appears. His entire value depends on external reaction. Without applause, he collapses. The still man doesn't chase attention. He carries it. His value isn't borrowed from the room, it radiates from within. Listen, fight for space. Space bends to him. Think of it like firecrackers versus a mountain. The loud man explodes with sparks, noise, and chaos, but disappears just as quickly. The still man is the mountain, immovable, unshaken. His presence lasts, even in silence. Why does this difference matter? Because people, especially women, feel the energy behind your actions. Noise often reveals insecurity. It says, please notice me, please validate me, please confirm I matter. But stillness says, I know who I am. Whether you notice or not, I remain the same. And that energy is magnetic. Let's stay. This brief story after story shows this. In social gatherings, the loud man may dominate the first few minutes. He's entertaining, yes, but rarely respected. The still man, on the other hand, speaks sparingly. When he finally opens his mouth, the room leans in. His words carry weight precisely because they are rare. This is why presence always outweighs noise. Start simple. Write down what triggered you today. Write how you responded. Then write how you should have responded. This daily reflection builds awareness. Awareness creates discipline, and discipline creates stillness, and discipline creates stillness. Meditation is Another tool. You don't need hours. Just 5 minutes of sitting in silence, focusing on breath, noticing thoughts without judgment. Over time, this sharpens your ability to stay calm no matter what. 6. Detach from external validation. One of the biggest destroyers of stillness is the need for approval. If your mood rises and falls based on how people treat you, you'll never be grounded. The practice. Stop seeking constant reassurance. When you speak, don't look around for nods. When you act, don't wait for praise. Anchor yourself in your own values, not in others' opinions. And stillness grows when you no longer chase recognition. 7. Enter every room with intention. Before you step into a room, decide, who am I going to be in this space? Not in words, not in performance, but in energy. Carry yourself as if you are already enough, because you are. Walk slowly. Observe first. Speak later. Let the room adjust to you instead of you adjusting to the room. This is how presence is cultivated in real time. Stillness isn't about perfection, it's about progress. It's about progress. Every breath you master, every silence you hold, every reaction you control. These are small victories that build into something unshakable. And over time, people will notice. They won't know what changed. They won't know why they feel different around you. But they'll feel it. Your energy will shift. Quaid me fistbu. Your presence will deepen. Your silence will begin to speak. This is how you turn philosophy into practice. This is how you embody masculine stillness. But here's the key. Once you cultivate it, what do you do with it? Stillness isn't just for you, it's for the world around you. And in the next chapter, we'll explore how this inner mastery translates into leadership, influence, and lasting impact. It's easy to talk about stillness when life is calm. But real strength is proven when the storm hits, because stillness isn't built in theory. It's tested in fire. The argument, picture this. You're in a heated argument. Someone raises their voice, points a finger, tries to provoke you. Most men bite back. They shout, defend, and lose control of the frame. But the still man doesn't mirror chaos. He listens, he breathes, he pauses before speaking. And when he does speak, his words cut sharper because they're rare, deliberate, controlled. That moment, the ability to stay calm while another man burns, is the test of stillness. And it's in that silence where true power reveals itself. Rejection now. Imagine rejection. A woman pulls away. A deal falls through. A friend betrays your trust. Most men collapse. They beg, chase, or lash out. But the still man, he accepts. He doesn't fight reality. He doesn't chase what has already chosen to leave. He remains grounded, knowing rejection is not a reflection of his worth, but simply a redirection. And that quiet acceptance commands respect. Because nothing is more attractive, nothing is more intimidating than a man who doesn't lose himself when he loses something. Career setbacks. Think of the workplace. You're overlooked for a promotion. A client tears apart your presentation. Your boss puts you under pressure, expecting you to snap. Most men panic. They scramble, explain, apologize endlessly. But the still man absorbs the moment. He doesn't fold, doesn't rush to defend. He adjusts, adapts, and moves forward. This kind of composure signals leadership. Because when others are shaking, the one who stays calm becomes the one others follow. Dating tension, and then there's dating. A woman tests you with silence, sarcasm, or subtle challenges. Most men react instantly, over-explaining, defending, proving. But the still man, he smiles. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't seek approval. He lets the tension sit. And in that tension, attraction grows, because women are not drawn to men who crumble under pressure. They're drawn to the man who can stand in fire without burning. Life will test your stillness every day. Embody. Not in grand cinematic ways, but in the small subtle moments where your instincts beg you to react. The rude comment. the unanswered text, the colleague who undermines you, the temptation to prove your worth. Each of these is a test. And every time you choose patience over panic, presence over noise, composure over chaos, you sharpen your strength. Because stillness isn't proven in meditation or journals alone. It's proven when someone pushes you to break, and you don't. And here's the paradox. The more the world tests you, the stronger you become if you remain centered. Each rejection is training. Each argument is training. Each setback is training. Every storm is an invitation to become unshakable. So the next time life tests you, remember this. People are watching. Or they're not judging the storm itself. They're judging how you stand inside it. Do you flinch? Do you panic? Do you crumble? Or do you breathe, hold your ground, and let the storm pass while you remain? Because that is true power, not in the easy moments, but in the hardest ones. In the hardest ones. And when you master stillness in the fires of daily life, you don't just survive, you ascend. Which leads us to the next step. Once you've proven your stillness under pressure, how do you use it to lead? How do you turn quiet composure into undeniable influence? That's where we go next. Some men leave echoes that fade within a generation. Others leave legacies that stretch across centuries. And if you look closely, you'll notice something remarkable. The men who shaped history most profoundly were not the loudest. They were the stillest. Leaders take Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who ruled one of the most powerful empires in history. Despite commanding armies and holding absolute power, he was not remembered for fiery speeches or explosive rage. He's remembered for his calm wisdom, his reflections on restraint, discipline, and inner peace. That stillness made him more than a ruler. It made him timeless. His words outlived his empire, guiding men even now. Warriors, or consider the samurai of ancient Japan. Trained in the art of battle, they lived constantly on the edge of death. And yet, what defined a true samurai wasn't ferocity, it was composure. The ability to stand in silence, sword sheathed, only striking when necessary. Their quiet discipline made them feared, respected, and immortalized in history. Philosophers then, there were the Stoics, Seneca, Epictetus, Aurelius again. Men who taught that power lies not in controlling others, but in controlling oneself. Their calm acceptance of fate, their ability to hold peace in chaos, carved their names into eternity. Because while empires crumbled, their stillness endured. Modern figures, even in recent times, the same truth holds. Think of Nelson Mandela, 27 years in prison. Yet he emerged without bitterness, standing calm, unshaken, and ultimately changing the fate of a nation. Or Mahatma Gandhi, whose silence and stillness broke empires without ever lifting a sword. His power wasn't in volume, it was in presence. The still man leaves a mark not by forcing himself onto the world, but by embodying a strength the world cannot ignore. Noise fades, rage burns out, but presence, calm, grounded, unwavering, creates a ripple that travels far beyond a lifetime. This is the legacy of stillness. It's not about winning arguments or proving yourself in every moment. It's about living in such a way that, long after you're gone, people still whisper your name with respect. And here's the truth. Every man has that choice. You can live loud and be forgotten, or you can live still and be remembered. So ask yourself, what legacy will your stillness leave? Because the world doesn't remember the noise. It remembers the men who mastered silence and turned it into strength. There's a quiet kind of power most men will never understand. It doesn't shout, it doesn't chase, it doesn't try to be seen. It simply is, and because of that, the world can't look away. Stillness is not the absence of strength. It's the highest form of it. It's the man who doesn't flinch when life tests him. The one who doesn't beg when love pulls away. The one who stands grounded while the world around him spins in chaos. Women feel it instantly. They may not always be able to explain why, but something deep in their nature is drawn to it. It whispers safety. It signals depth. It tells her, this man isn't moved by the storm because he has become the mountain. And men, real men, admire it too. They see in that stillness a reflection of discipline, of inner mastery, of a strength they themselves aspire to build. The truth is, the world doesn't bend for noise. It bends for gravity. And you become gravity when you stop proving, stop chasing, stop reacting, and simply stand in your power. Because stillness isn't passive. It's deliberate. It's the decision to choose peace over panic, patience over impulse, depth over drama, and in a world drowning in noise, that decision makes you unforgettable. So remember this, the men who speak the loudest are often the most desperate to be heard. But the man who can hold silence, who lets his presence speak for him, is the one no one can ignore. That is the power she can't resist. The power that earns respect without demanding it. The power that turns ordinary men into legends. So master your silence, guard it, wield it like a weapon. And when you do, you'll find that even when you leave the room, your presence lingers, your impact deepens, and the world, including her, will still feel you long after you're gone. Because in the end, the world remembers not the loudest man, but the stillest one.